Cinema has always relied on sound to guide emotion, a whisper to build tension, a note to shape fear. But hidden beneath those layers of score and dialogue are noises no one planned, breaths that weren't taken by any actor, voices that belonged to no one on set. For decades, these faint traces have haunted archivists and sound engineers. They don't appear on scripts, call sheets, or mix sheets, yet somehow they exist. A sigh that vanishes in the next release, a voice that surfaces only once, then disappears. Sometimes they're dismissed as tape hiss or digital compression, but others linger, defying replication, behaving as if they were alive inside the silence. Some engineers claim they've seen waveforms with no input, signals without microphones, and sounds that seem to arrive from nowhere at all. Maybe they're accidents, maybe echoes, or maybe, just maybe, the recording didn't stop when the director yelled, "Cut." Tonight, we'll listen closely to 15 films that captured something no one was supposed to hear, and once you hear them, silence will never sound the same. The Blair Witch Project, 1999. The Blair Witch Project began as fiction, but ended with something much harder to explain. As Heather's camera shakes through the collapsing house, her voice cracks in terror. Underneath it, almost inaudible at first, other sounds begin to rise. A chorus of faint cries, a long, wet breath, and then one whisper overlapping all the rest. The directors insist every sound was crafted manually, yet one of them later admitted, "There are things in the final mix we don't remember creating." The breath existed only in the Sundance cut and an early DVD pressing. It's gone from all later versions. The file metadata contains no notes, no track assignment. Test screenings included a subtitle cue, unknown source, during that exact moment. It was removed from the official release. If the camera captured what they saw, maybe the microphone caught what was waiting for them. Hereditary, 2018. Ari Aster's Hereditary builds horror out of grief, silence, and inevitability. But one detail still unsettles those who work with sound. In the attic, as Annie searches through the darkness, there's a pause, a vacuum where the music drops out. Then, from the shadows, a voice whispers, "Peter, it's soft, it's male, it's desperate, and it doesn't belong to anyone in the cast." Played backward, the same sound forms the word "open." The whisper appears only in the earliest theatrical screenings. Later home releases have no trace of it. A24 never commented. The sound team insists it doesn't exist. When asked in an interview, Aster smiled and said, "You'd be surprised what the mix picks up when you're not looking." Maybe the film didn't summon the supernatural, maybe it documented it. Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Polanski's Rosemary's Baby is built on paranoia, but one whisper hidden inside the film's final act makes that paranoia feel almost justified. In a narrow hallway, Rosemary leans toward the peephole, eyes wide with dread. The score vanishes, the air turns dense, and then, faintly, a voice low and intimate says, "We see you." It's not in the script. It doesn't match any actor's mouth or microphone. Yet on early VHS releases, it's there, sharp enough to feel, brief enough to doubt. When the film was remastered, the whisper disappeared entirely. Engineers later claimed there was nothing in the track. Others pointed to a stereo imbalance that suggested intentional placement. Polanski once said, "The scariest thing about paranoia is realizing it's not paranoia. Maybe that voice wasn't part of the fiction. Maybe it was agreeing with her." Mulholland Drive, 2001. David Lynch's Mulholland Drive is a maze made of echoes, but one of them wasn't scripted. At Club Silencio, before the performance begins, the lights dim and time feels suspended. For a heartbeat, nothing moves. Then, from somewhere in the dark, a rasped word cuts through. "Behind." The whisper appears only in a 2002 Japanese DVD pressing, absent from every later release. It isn't subtitled or credited, but it's undeniably there, short, coarse, real. One former Lynch collaborator later hinted, "Certain mixes left the studio with sounds we didn't approve. No one asked why. When the audio is reversed, the word mutates into another. Don't go back." Was it deliberate? A trick of the soundstage? Or just another accident in Lynch's dream logic? Maybe the warning wasn't for the characters, but for whoever kept listening. The Witch, 2015, Robert Eggers. The Witch thrives on restraint, a whisper louder than any scream. But in one of its stillest moments, the silence speaks first. Thomason kneels in the woods, praying under her breath. The wind drops, the world stills, and a sharp inhale fills the frame. It doesn't come from her or anyone on set. Eggers has said the scene was rebuilt entirely in ADR, with no environmental mics active. Yet the breath exists in early Blu-ray editions. When reversed, it plays backward, a sound anticipating itself. Scholars noticed the moment coincides precisely with Thomason's emotional surrender, the instant she becomes visible to what the story only implies. It might be technical noise, or it might be acknowledgement. When silence listens back, it breathes in before it answers. The Exorcism of Emily Rose, 2005. In The Exorcism of Emily Rose, faith meets reason, but one sound buried in its silence may belong to neither. During a cell scene late at night, Father Moore sits alone, motionless, the flicker of a single bulb trembling above him. The music fades, the air hums. Then, beneath that hum, a voice begins to chant, low, male, and in Latin. The words aren't listed in the ADR notes. No one recalls recording them. Yet, when fans enhance the audio, they claim to hear a translation. He listens when they speak. The studio dismissed it as data compression noise, but one sound engineer, interviewed years later, admitted they had abandoned a field recording session in a cathedral after equipment interference they couldn't explain. The chant is gone from all re-releases. What remains is the empty space where it used to live, a space that now sounds heavier than before. Perhaps not every prayer travels upward. Some find their answer beneath the static. Poltergeist 1982. Poltergeist ends with collapse screams, lightning, the sound of a house devouring itself, but buried under that chaos is a single phrase that never made it to the credits. When Diane Freeling carries her children out as the house folds inward, the audio peaks, the score surges, and then, just for a breath, it's still inside. The line isn't scripted. It doesn't exist in subtitles or official transcripts, yet people who saw the original theatrical run swear they heard it. When remasters were released, it vanished completely. A sound restorer later found traces of the whisper duplicated unevenly across both channels, slightly misaligned, as if inserted after the mix. No metadata, no track label. Projectionists who screened the film in 1982 say the voice changed each night. A hiss, a whisper, once even a growl. Maybe the haunting didn't end in the house. Maybe it found a home in the sound. Under the Skin, 2013, Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin is about watching, but somewhere within it, something unseen was listening. In a van parked on a dim Scottish street, the alien waits. No dialogue, no music, just the hum of the world outside. Then, beneath it, a new sound, slow, rasping breaths, close to the mic but not hers. It's missing from most home releases. Only the UK Blu-ray carries it, buried under the ambient noise. Sound engineers tried to track it down but found no entry in the mix logs. No voice actor, no reverb trail. The breath seems to move through the sound field rather than inside it, phasing in and out like it was walking through static. Fans say it's the perfect metaphor for the film, the human trying to feel alive, and something else breathing back. If the predator was observing humanity, what if something human was observing her? Don't Look Now, 1973. Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now is drenched in grief. Every frame trembles with loss. But for years, one sound inside its final chase has left viewers wondering if grief itself can speak. As John Baxter runs through the dark Venetian alleys, the music halts for just an instant. Then, faintly, from somewhere behind the camera, comes a child's giggle. It's light, distant, and completely out of place. No child is in the scene. No such recording appears in the sound library. That laughter exists only in early VHS and select European DVDs. When restoration teams searched for it, the sound was gone as if erased, not by editing, but by time. An editor once called it a sound that shouldn't be there, but refuses to leave. Others dismiss it as interference. Still, those who've heard it swear it feels alive, brief, fragile, and impossible to forget. If grief echoes, maybe it does so with a voice. Insidious, 2010. In Insidious, sound is the heartbeat of fear. Every silence, a trap, and one of those silences holds a whisper that no one admits to recording. When Josh steps into the further, everything fades: the score, the ambient hum, the world itself. Then a voice cuts through. It's not done. It's not in any script draft, not on the official 5:1 mix, and not in any Blu-ray or streaming release. Only those who saw the film in theaters caught it. Composer Joseph Bashara denied using any vocal layers. Editors said the frequency didn't belong to any studio mic, yet fan-archived copies still carry it distorted. Echoing, out of place, one anonymous crew member posted cryptically, "Something got into the mix before we locked picture. We couldn't trace it, a film about spirits crossing over, and maybe one actually did." JFK 1991. Oliver Stone's JFK is a film built on conspiracies, half-truths, and evidence buried in plain sight. But one mystery hides not in the image and the background sound. In a courthouse corridor filled with chatter and cameras, Jim Garrison passes through the crowd. For a split second, the noise dips, and a whisper surfaces. He didn't fall, no character says it, no subtitle translates it. The voice just exists, fleeting, male, emotionless. When sound editors revisited the mix, they found it living in a channel labeled Room Tone B. That track was supposed to be blank. One engineer later called it a voice that rides the noise floor. Some say it's an accidental overlap. Others believe it was placed there deliberately. A sonic ghost inside a film about hidden truths. Sometimes, what's buried isn't on film, it's between the frequencies. The Others, 2001. In The Others, silence is a character. It fills the rooms, follows the light, and sometimes exhales during a long tracking shot. Grace Nicole Kidman walks slowly down a corridor bathed in fog and faint daylight. There's no music, only her footsteps. Then, out of nowhere, a breath wet, uneven, human drifts just behind her. It's not in the script, not in the sound logs, but it was in early DVD releases. A faint noise at the 18-minute mark, later scrubbed clean in the remaster. Some fans captured it, isolated it, enhanced it, and found it didn't match any voice in the cast. A former post-production assistant later wrote online, "That hallway had no live mic. That sound couldn't have been there. The breath exists only in memory now." And maybe that's the most disturbing part, that silence can change shape when no one's listening. Every ghost story begins with something trying to be heard. Session 92001. Filmed inside an abandoned asylum, Session 9 already carries the weight of a haunting, but one voice, brief, trembling, and undocumented, makes it unforgettable. As the workers move through a corridor filled with debris, the soundtrack shifts. Then, under the hum of machinery, a woman whispers, "He's still here." The actors never respond, the script never mentions it. And when fans replayed the moment, it appeared in some versions but not all. Director Brad Anderson denied it completely. "We never recorded that line. If you heard it, it's not ours." Yet, when engineers examined the master, they found nothing. No matching frequency, no environmental echo, no mic signature. Some say it was a bleed from an earlier take. Others think it was something else, something that never left the building. In a movie about voices trapped in tape, maybe one voice refused to stay quiet. The Ninth Gate, 1999. Polanski's The Ninth Gate is a film obsessed with forbidden knowledge, and one of its most unsettling secrets isn't in the story, but the soundtrack. As Dean Corso studies a rare text in an empty room, the world goes still. For a breath, there is nothing. Then a sigh, low, tired, and too close to the mic, slides into the mix. That sigh doesn't belong to Johnny Depp. It doesn't match his breathing or the pacing of the scene. It moves across the stereo field in a way no recorded sound should, from behind the listener forward. Like something crossing the room, it's present in only one Region 2 DVD release. Gone from American versions. Erased in HD. Sound engineers can't explain it. The composer denies ever using a human element there. A fan once described it perfectly. "It sounds like the film itself exhaling. If knowledge has a voice, maybe this is the sound of it breathing." The Innocents, 1961. Jack Clayton's The Innocents has always been praised for what it withholds. Its ghosts are quiet, its fear invisible, but for some viewers, one scene revealed something the camera never saw and the microphone never should have caught. In the middle of a long hallway sequence, the governess moves through the mansion, candlelight trembling in her hand. The music fades. For a moment, you hear nothing but air. Then, layered beneath the silence, a faint, human breathing begins. Slow, rhythmic, close enough to feel. That sound existed only in the British 1961 print. When the film was restored decades later, it was gone. Engineers found no record of it, not in the ambient track, not in the Foley, not anywhere in the archive. One described it as a presence inside the mix. No one ever identified its source, and yet, even after it vanished from every version, some still swear they can hear it faintly in the pause before the music returns. Sometimes, silence doesn't hide fear, it records it. A Field in England, 2013. Ben Wheatley's A Field in England has always felt less like a film and more like an experiment in madness, a black and white hallucination stretched across time. But one moment inside that chaos left an imprint no one can explain. Midway through the film's violent strobe montage, the screen flickers faster than the eye can adjust, and beneath the flashing images, a voice starts counting. 1, 2, 3. The tone is flat, calm, unhurried, almost hypnotic. It reaches 13 and cuts out as the image burns white. That voice isn't in the official soundtrack. It isn't in the subtitle files or the stems used for Blu-ray mastering. But festival screeners from 2013 carried it clearly. Before every home release erased it, audio specialists analyzing the anomaly found the sound moved strangely between channels, fading in and out like it was stepping between them. The waveform behaved more like interference than speech. No one ever claimed responsibility. Some think Wheatley slipped it in deliberately. Others believe the recording came from one of the original field microphones left running when everyone thought the shoot was over. Counting to 13 should have meant the end. Instead, it feels like the moment something began listening back. Every film leaves behind a trace, a flicker, a frame, a sound that refuses to fade. 15 films, 15 moments when silence wasn't silent at all. Maybe these were accidents, stray breaths, glitches, digital ghosts, or maybe they were proof that the camera isn't the only thing that remembers, that even after the lights go down, something stays awake inside the sound. You've just heard the echoes most audiences never notice. Now it's your turn to listen closer. Which of these moments haunted you the most? Have you ever heard a noise in a film that no one else caught? Tell us in the comments, because sometimes, when you listen to a movie long enough, it starts listening back. This is Darkroom Cinema, where silence has a voice.